So no, I object to the modification.
Is there an objection?
I object.
Objection is heard.
Mr.
Senator from New Jersey.
Today, right now, Christopher Bass sits in a jail cell in Jessup, Georgia. He'll sleep there tonight, and he has spent 19 years in that jail cell. Terrence Stanton sits in a jail cell in Wildwood, Florida. He spent the last 8 years in that jail cell. Across our country, 8,000 people sit in jail cells who should have been left a long time ago. Many have been there for years and will be there for years to come. Christopher and Terrence are just two of the people languishing behind bars because of a mistake that Congress made 36 years ago. Their families are two of the thousands of families who are not reconnected with their families during a holiday season, who are not reunited with their children because of this mistake. In 1986, Congress passed a law which created a 100-to-1 sentencing disparity between crack cocaine and powder cocaine offenses. This decision to enact this decision was not based on science or data. Crack cocaine and powder cocaine are pharmacologically the same substance. They have the same effects. They are identical. That is science. But the one which was more prevalent in poor communities, in black and brown communities, was punished 100 times more harshly. It was only in 2010 that Congress reduced but not eliminated this disparity to 18-to-1. But yes, why 18-to-1? Again, there is no reason behind this ratio of the same exact scientifically, pharmacologically substance. And this disparity continues to ruin the lives of hundreds of people convicted for nonviolent crack offenses because they receive punishments 18 times longer than those with the powder. Those of you who know me will understand that this is an urgency I feel because we are a nation that believes that liberty is one of the most sacrosanct ideals. And to unjustly take a person's liberty is an affront to our constitutional principles that we swear an oath to when we say we are one nation under God with liberty and justice for all. I believe we must deal with this. We know that this is an urgency. We know that this is wrong. In fact, the bill, the Equal Act, which was passed overwhelmingly in the House of Representatives, passed with a vote of 361 to 66. Republicans and Democrats joined together all across the political spectrum to say that this was wrong, that we should make these pharmacologically identical substances have the same punishment. Here in the United States Senate, 11 Republicans have joined as co-sponsors of the Equal Act legislation. This is supported bicamerally, bipartisanly, and yet we can't get this done. This bill gathers momentum. It's advocated for from police groups all the way to think tanks on both sides of the aisle. I believe now is the time, as we approach the holidays, to end this injustice, to restore truth, more truth behind the ideals of liberty in this nation. And so therefore, I ask unanimous consent that the Judiciary Committee be discharged from further consideration of H.R. 1693 and that the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration. Further, that the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there an objection?
Mr. President.
Senator from Arkansas.
Reserving the right to object. Every American has heard about our drug death crisis. Many have sadly experienced it first or secondhand, seeing loved ones and friends struggle with addiction. And it's not just opioids. In the past year, more than 25,000 of our fellow citizens died by cocaine. That's more than a 25% increase since Joe Biden took office, and more than double the overdoses in 2016. At the same time, murders and other violent crime rates are skyrocketing, as we just heard earlier from the Senator from New Jersey. The murder rate has hit levels not seen since the 1990s. Gangs and cartels are emboldened, in part because they know that many Soros prosecutors across the country and the Garland Department of Justice will treat them with kid gloves. This so-called Equal Act is likewise going to go easier on crack cocaine traffickers, including members of gangs and cartels. This would only exacerbate our problems. Why would we do that now, of all times, given these facts? Crack cocaine and powder cocaine, while true, are the same primary chemicals, are different drugs. Their delivery is different. Crack cocaine is more addictive. Typical methods of trafficking and sale are more dangerous. According to the U.S. Sentencing Commission, crack cocaine traffickers are more than twice as likely as powder cocaine traffickers to involve weapons in their crimes. And crack cocaine traffickers are the most likely of any type of drug trafficker to be rearrested. Nearly 60% of crack cocaine traffickers are rearrested, many for violent offenses within just a few years of release. Disproportionately, minorities and individuals in low-income areas bear the brunt of the violence of this trafficking. That's why I have to remind everyone Congress passed laws with enhanced penalties for crack cocaine trafficking in the first place. And I have to remind everyone that those laws passed almost unanimously decades ago when the Senator from New Jersey and I were just kids, and they were supported by, among other people, the Congressional Black Caucus, Senator Durbin, Senator Leahy, Senator Schumer, and then Senator, now President, Joe Biden. This is not an accident. This was a deliberate policy choice for the reasons I have stated. The Equal Act, though, would not just reduce sentences for those dealing drugs now, it would also retroactively allow crack cocaine traffickers in federal prison to seek early release. Nevertheless, I've heard, as we heard today, for years about this so-called disparity, as if it were an accident, as if it were unintentional, a loophole in the law, rather than people like Senator Schumer and Senator Leahy and then Senator Biden and the Congressional Black Caucus seeking it as a deliberate policy choice. Oftentimes, it's attributed to racism. Again, the disparity is in the law because of the facts I've cited. However, I'm willing to try to meet the other side halfway. I have a different plan to eliminate the disparity. Rather than reducing sentences for crack cocaine traffickers, I propose that we increase sentences for powder cocaine trafficking to eliminate this disparity. Especially with cocaine overdoses on the rise now, we should start enforcing the law even more rigorously so innocent Americans don't die. So, Mr. President, still reserving the right to object, I ask unanimous consent that the Senator modify his request to include my amendment, which is at the desk, the amendment be considered and agreed to, the bill as amended be considered read and a third time and passed, and that the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Does the senator so modify his request?
Reserving the right to object. I questioned some of the comments that were made that over a generation ago when Congress acted wrongly, the senators that he named, from the President of the United States, former senator, to Dick Durbin, to members of the Congressional Black Caucus, have all said publicly that they think it was a mistake. There are things this body has done before, generations ago, like this, that future Congresses said enough is enough. This Congress passed laws on gender, on LGBTQ Americans, that later Congresses said that was a mistake. Now, the beautiful thing about this is it's not a partisan group of people saying it was a mistake. In the House of Representatives, you have dozens of Republicans and Democrats who were there a generation ago, over 30 years, that said it was a mistake. You now have this loud chorus of conviction that says this was wrong. And the senator from Arkansas, I respect him deeply and consider him somebody that has helped to make me a better senator. But if you look at what we call recidivism rates, the data from my colleague from Arkansas cites counts arrests for minor violations of parole or other technical violations as recidivism. And often, it's people returning to low-income communities that are more heavily policed. We know we have more interactions with police and a more likelihood for rearrest. This doesn't take away from the ideal that I talked about, an ideal to which my colleague and I both have this fierce fealty to, which is liberty. Right now in prisons all over America, there are people that have been in jail for a decade or 2 decades for nonviolent crack cocaine offenses, while people with more cocaine, with more weightier drugs that affect more people, have come in and out of jail. The people that are in jail for crack cocaine happen to be disproportionately African American. At the time when Congress made this mistake, which Republicans and Democrats in both houses say was a mistake, there was a terrible fear that was gripping this country with a new drug coming along. It was that fear that drove us to do something that has now had people in prison for years and years and years. And so I do object to what my colleague and friend proposes. And I know that this will be corrected. Mark my words. The arc of the moral universe is long. We will get to 1-to-1. I am confident of that. But why should people have to languish in prison for yet another year to 2 years, another Congress, separated from families, separated from their children? God, at this time of the holidays where so many people are being reunited, this is not only an act of justice, it would be an act of mercy. I object to my colleague's unanimous consent request.
Objection is heard. Is there an objection to the original request?
Mr. President, reserving the right to object. Just to be clear, cocaine or powder cocaine sentences are here, crack cocaine sentences are here. The bill in question would reduce these sentences to eliminate this so-called disparity. My amendment would simply raise sentences for powder cocaine dealing. So I would suggest the issue here is not so much the disparity, but tough sentences for crimes whatsoever. So I object.
Objection is heard.